On
Hi, Jeff. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you, Todd?
Jeff Braden and Braden Acquisitions on the webinar along with myself, Todd Profit with Aspen Development and Aspen Investment Association. So a lot of people want to know about quick valuations, how to determine a quick value for resale and or rental in 5 to 10 minutes or less. Have you ever had that experience, Jeff, where you need to make a
I
quick valuation?
absolutely. You had renters, or excuse me, you had the agents calling you all the time saying, "Hey, I've got a property," and you got to get them an answer very quickly. You don't want to be getting back to them the next day. So,
Got to be able to do it on your iPhone, usually very, very
yep.
quickly. iPhone or smartphone, whatever it is you use. Just to give you a little background, Glenwood Springs, 1976. I mean, I've been in the business literally forever since 1976. When I was a kid, I was involved in this purchase with my father and my mother in '76. They built, 35,000 purchase. They built for 60 grand. Built a 2,600 square foot 2 car garage. Sold in '78. 2 years later for 250,000.
Wow.
So over 100% profit. My first flip, was a trailer. I did a 5K owner carry. I literally brought my friends in, my other competitive ski buddies, and they put the down payment on it. I ended up making 35K on that. A lot of deals there, land development. We've done a little bit of everything. But a long story short, my target markets have been Colorado. They're the best markets with supporting economics, depending on, what type of a market you're in. Right now, Jeff, we're in the resort markets are booming. The Denver's
Yep.
booming. The Front Range is booming. Your metropolitan areas. Uh,
Yep. Everything in Denver and the surrounding communities is going up, up, up.
Front Range.
It's
So
yep.
it's all about best place to live, where I want to live. That's where I want to develop. Transitional markets are great. Those fringe markets, the great opportunities lie where you find them, and they're all over. And then, of course, getting to the valuation. We use Zillow, Trulia, and Rentometer. Are these what you use as well, Jeff?
I do. I use a Rentometer quite often on my multifamily deals.
So this is just a quick lowdown, but let's get an example. So the first thing I do, as you do, since you're into income producing property, you look at what the rents are. So let's just do. We're both have offices in Denver. Let's do Denver. Denver. Let's do a 1 bedroom, and let's analyze address. Let's see what we got. It should give us our averages. So there's your average right there: 1,000, 1,100, 1,091 to 1,100 a month for a 1 bedroom in Denver. Isn't that insane? You go here.
That is nuts.
You want to know the property value? You get onto Denver, Colorado, hit it, search it, and this will pop up. Now, what you do is you need to, depending on what the home you are evaluating, you want to find something that is like property. This is a pretty specific property over here. You might want to look, if you have a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, you might want to look at something like this. You take a look at where it's at, what kind of amenities are close by. So the map, is it in close proximity, within a mile or less of your property? Usually you want something in the same neighborhood within a block or five. A block or five. If something's on the same block, that's going to be your best comp. If it's within 3 blocks, that's as almost as good. And 5 blocks out, usually once you get past a mile, don't you agree, Jeff? You're really getting into different neighborhoods, different values.
You are. You're kind of stretching it at that point.
The other thing to always take a look at is the street view. Is it on a busy street? Does it have a lot of traffic noise? Is it a quiet street with no traffic noise? And depending on your subject property, you're going to want to compare those amenities, those traffic patterns. Is it close to school? Is it close to a shopping mall? Is it close to a pool? Is it close to a park? And all of
Now,
the,
Todd,
yes,
sorry to interrupt you. When I was doing wholesale properties, and I was doing my residential properties back then, if we found something on a busy street, our property values were immediately 15% lower than what they were for the something that wasn't as busy. Is that still hold true in this market and
well,
anywhere else?
I was an appraiser, and I got to tell you, I had a place off Lincoln, and I couldn't get rid of that thing until just recently, last 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But I
Wow.
held on to it for almost 4 years because I bought it for 200,000. It's everything else in the Wash Park area sells for 750 to 850. It's that size of a
Hmm.
home. It was a 5 bedroom home, but a long story short, it was on such a busy street. Now it's up to 465. So I think it really depends
Wow.
on how busy the street is, and you really have to take into consideration the highest sales in that area on those types of same scenario locations, such as traffic, such as
Hmm.
maybe an airport. Remember the places in Stapleton back in the day? Man, they had to give them away because the airport was, people were flying over. That's why they moved
Yep.
DIA out in the middle of frickin' into Nebraska, because they want that effect, right? So
Yep.
Trulia is a great, local info. I always like to do market trends as well, which gives you some historical data. So it's nice to see, what's it been doing the last 1 year, 5 year, 10 years. Here you can go max, and they go back all the way to January of 1000, which is 18 years. They're going back 18 years here. You can check the median sales price for that neighborhood. You can also do the overlays. Now Zillow does the same thing. Let's get on Zillow, and in Zillow you can do a quick review. Now we were on Trulia, and we were coming up with, for a one bed, 269, 273. So we're right around that area, about $250,000 for a one bedroom. Now let's hit this one. So we have that weird home. There's some weird homes in there, and you always have to understand that some homes are going to stand out. They're not going to be like your property. Maybe they're super modern like this. Maybe they're really chateau right out of Italy, which is very specific. Hard
Yeah,
to value.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're finding that a lot in Denver, where they're building these the new trendy houses right next to the houses that are 1950s and 60s.
right. Yeah, real trendy, real modern, real hip, real different.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can scan through these. You can get your one beds in here. Here's a condo, one bed, one bath, 389. It's a little bigger though. You always want to check your square footage as well. Make sure it's usually within, as an appraiser, we shoot with between 10% of the subject property, your property that you're trying to establish value on. You really look for something within 10% above and below to acquire that price per square foot, try to hone it in. Now, of course, something like this that's an apartment or a condo versus a house is going to have more value because a house has land.
Yep.
Um, so things to think about there. Here we have, this is a 2 bed condo for 300,000, right? So this one's a condo, 2 bed for 215. Now you say, well, Todd, you just had $250,000, but this is a condo. It looks like an apartment complex that's been condominiumized. So your amenities, you might be real tight, you might be real constrictive, you might be able to hear through the walls, you might have high HOA fees, which are your monthly fees for all of your amenities, common spaces, etc. You always want to look at your HOA fees as well. We have HOA fees up here in Aspen that are in excess of 2,500 a month, literally for a one bedroom condo. So your condo
That's
costs
wow.
1,500 a month, but your HOA costs you 2,500. You're paying 4,000 for a one bedroom condominium. So you need to really
Wow.
watch those HOA fees. Now in Denver, you have HOAs that can go up to 500-600 a month, especially in these hip, trendy areas downtown, like where you're doing development projects. You know where those HOAs go, right, Jeff? They can be really
Yeah.
high. Maybe you get a pool.
Astronomical.
They can astronomical, exactly. But maybe you get a pool, maybe you get a bar, you have some common space, whatever. Could be hip, could be worth it, but you need to be aware of those fees. So here you have a 2 bedroom house for sale for 335. So and then it comes down to, what are your finishes? Do you have hardwood floors? Do you have modern cabinets? Do you have granite countertops? Do you have any smart home features? Does it have a new roof? Does it have 10-foot ceilings instead of 8 foot? Does it have parking? Whatever it is, a garage. So those are
Hmm.
things to take into consideration when you're doing your valuation. Now I know this is a very quick video. We're keeping it to about 10 minutes here. When you really get into details and really want to dig deep on your property to get a true valuation, you really want to dig into the exact square footage, the exact amenities, the everything that comes with your property and then match that with a property that is sold in the last 90 days that is exactly like your property or as close to exactly like your property as possible. And that, my friends, is how you evaluate property. Jeff, thanks for being on with me. Thanks for running everybody through this. Do you have anything that you'd like to add when you do your evaluations?
Yeah, you got to be careful also when you're looking at these. I know renovation of the properties is a whole nother webinar to do, but it's we've actually done a couple of them. But it's something that you also got to look at too when you're looking at a property, especially if you're going to do a fix and flip. So you got to be aware of that as well. So.
Well, thank you so much for being on. Everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.